Don't want to forget that. And we're all set. Microphone is on. 6 seconds count. So, Friday, yes, let's do this. Let's go. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to my stream. I'm Pierre, your host. I hope you're all doing okay. So today is Friday, and that's always a good day just before the weekend. So anyways, let's not waste any time. We don't want to go home at 3 in the morning, right? So what we're going to do is what we do every time we start a new stream. We're going to go over to the computer. We're going to check out very quickly a 15-second recap of what we did yesterday, and then we'll tackle our day from there. So what did we do yesterday? Well, it wasn't very complicated. We basically started off our stream by doing these what I call electromagnetic waves, right? We got some gold paint and made these rings. So it looks like as though you dropped a stone in a pond and you looked at the ripples going out. That is basically the idea behind the whole thing. And of course, we finished off by putting the background color to our little planets, you know, these little white spots. I call them planets because I'm into astronomy or whatever. I always find that pretty, I'd rather use terms like electromagnetic waves, planets. I find that more cosmic. So anyways, what are we going to do today? Well, I'm going to start off, first of all, by putting the details to this turquoise green plant, because since it is in the background, it is behind our vines, and there's going to be so much more stuff going on top of all this. This is just basically the background. I am going to kind of finish off this background first. This here, this, and these leaves are all the foreground, so I can put the details on those later. I don't want to do it now because since I'm right-handed and I always have a tendency to forget what I'm doing because I'm dealing with like 3 cameras at the same time, I always have put my hand in the paint by mistake and make a mess. So to avoid that, I'm going to try to be kind of methodical and do things the right way. So what I'm going to do is put on the details to this first plant first. And the only thing is, I'm not sure if I want to go with a light turquoise green or do I want to go with a darker one. That is the problem that I'm having right now. So I'm just going to, first of all, start with the dark, right, which is right out of the jar. I'm going to put that on my palette, which is right here, which I've already used to put this the coat of our turquoise green. I'm trying to rip off the paint so we have a nice clean palette. There we go. It's peeling off kind of easily. There we go. So just want to scrape off this paint. There we go. I mean, this always kind of cracks me up because the binder for the pigments of acrylic paints is a polymer emulsion, right? So when you peel it off on a non-porous surface, well, you realize like this stuff is nothing else but plastic. I find that to be pretty crazy. So anyways, and that is acrylic paints for you, which is great because it'll stick to wood, it'll stick to materials, it'll stick to a lot of stuff except non-porous surfaces like a mirror or glass or metal. So that's why it doesn't stick to my plastic as well. And I can just peel it off and just recycle all my palettes, and I have like a new palette every time I need it. So that's pretty good. The other nice thing about acrylic paints is that it dries extremely quickly and it has no odor. So those are 3 reasons why I like using it. So let's get this turquoise green paint on my palette. I'm going to bring over, because I'm juggling with 3 cameras here, so I'm going to try to remember how to deal with all this to make it interesting. I'm just going to bring this baby over a little bit. And like usual, I always kind of clean my knife right away, try to keep materials as clean as possible. There we go. So, what am I going to do? Am I going to go with this darker green, or should I make it even lighter than the one we have on the painting for our details? And you know what? I think I'm going to go with the darker one, because the lighter I get, the more it's going to clash with the rest of the painting when it's all finished. So I guess I took care of that problem. Now let's grab a nice fat brush just to bring some water and to get our paint to be the right consistency that we need so that it glides on the canvas nicely, but yet we want to keep it nice and opaque as well. So we're going to have to just put the right amount of water, not too much, not too little. Now, obviously, if I was mixing several colors together, I would go on camera number 1 and we would do that together, but just to add water to this, not that interesting, so I'm not going to bother with that. I pay special attention to my YouTube feed, which is live right now, as well as the Instagram. The reason why I do it with the YouTube is that because my YouTube feed is, I'm taping it as I'm broadcasting it. And I'm taping it in a better quality than I'm broadcasting, obviously. I don't want to broadcast on full HD because it's not really the upload speed that's a problem. It's a download speed for many people. And if you don't want the whole thing to be choppy, well, you have to have a bit rate that is HD, but not really too difficult, so that people who are living in the countryside or who don't have a fiber or a very quick download speed can still watch the video without it being too choppy and impossible to watch. So, but on my camera, since I'm recording, I am recording in a very high HD, which at the end of my paintings, I make a little making of movie that goes between 3, 4 to sometimes 12, 13 minutes of how I made the particular painting. And the people who buy my paintings actually find that kind of interesting to see how and what happened in the studio during those several weeks that I was creating the painting that they bought. So that is kind of a nice feature. So anyway, so that's why I kind of, and to make these films interesting, of course you have to, the more cutaways you have, the more camera angles you have, well, when you do the montage, when you do the editing, well, the more materials you have to play around with, it makes a richer final film. So that's why I often concentrate a lot more on my YouTube feed than I do with the Instagram feed, which unfortunately I'm just limited to this frontal camera and the rear camera, which I really don't use, because since I do move the tripod around, I do want to see a little bit what everybody else is seeing as well. So I am limited to that as well, but it's another challenge. It's fun for me to do. So while I'm blabbing away, I did get my paint to be the right texture, right consistency that I want. Now the next step is to find the right size paintbrush. So I might as well move the camera right over here, because this is what we're going to be tackling. We're going to tackle the details of this turquoise paint right here. I am going to bring my other camera, camera number 1. Right here. This is like the Umbrella Academy. I have camera number 1, camera number 2, and camera number 3, and the telephone. So, juggling with 4 cameras. So, all this to say, I need to find the right paintbrush so that I have control over what I'm doing. And I have a feeling this guy might be the right one. And if this doesn't look good, doesn't work out, well, I'll just switch to maybe this guy here. But we'll see that in a few. Oh, here's another option. I'm going to go with this first. and then we can always switch afterwards. So let me just take a look and make sure my everything is going okay. CPU 38, very good. 30 frames per second, uploading at 4,700 kilobytes per second. That's perfect, no drop frames. Okay, on the technical level, everything is going fine. So I don't have to worry about that. I remembered to turn on my microphone. Okay. Okay, so everything is cool on that level. Now, let's just concentrate on this level. And I'm just going to step back for a second, take a look. Okay, so let me just move this out of the way because I really don't want to be in front of the... And let's see if I can just zoom in a little bit, just like that. Okay. So let's see if this is the right size paintbrush, first of all. And it is. Okay, so that's pretty good. I mean, normally I should have done this before I painted these vines, but I just walked in the studio and decided to do those vines. I kind of always make my decisions in the last second, so... So, am I in front of the lenses? No, I'm not. Okay, I hate doing that. And yes. Let's switch over that. All right. Even though I didn't finish quite my leaf here, I did this part here because I wanted to make sure I didn't put my hand in the wet paint. Like I said, it happens so often that now I'm starting to be kind of smart about it. It's about time too. we go. So, what does this give? All right. Okay, so that's a good thing that's done. I'll bring this over here. Switch back to camera number 2. Now, what is the next step? That is a good question. Let me just stand back here and see from afar. So, I think the next step is to put the orange, the first coat, because unfortunately I'm going to have to put 2 coats to make sure that I don't see through those and I don't see the brush strokes. That is one of the drawbacks of using certain colors. I would say 90% of the colors I use, I have to put 2 coats. So I'm used to it by now. It's kind of a pain in the neck because sometimes you just waste a day because you want to do so much more. But since it is, so here's a perfect example again of the plastic, you know, just peeling right off a cap. And I have a brand new palette. So that's cool. So, do I have any more orange paint in here that I could use up, or is this tube empty? I don't even remember. Well, there's a little bit left. I might as well use that up. There we go. I sure as hell don't want to waste any paint. It costs so much. It's really costs an arm and a leg. There we go. Probably put too much on my plate, but that doesn't matter. If I leave it in the tube, it's just going to harden and I'll have to throw away the tube. So I might as well put it on my palette and then put it on. And no matter how thick I put this orange paint down on the canvas, I'm still going to need 2 coats. It's totally crazy. So let's see what, let me get a nice fat paintbrush again just to add some water. And again, I'm going to try to make this a lot more liquid, but at the same time, I do not want it to be too thin just because I want to keep it nice, as opaque as possible, right? To avoid a 3rd coat, which I'll never do. I should be able to get this just right. And then on top of the 2nd coat, I am going to go back with some red paint and put some shadowing just to give these little planets a little bit of depth. And that's when you put the red shadowing, that's when they look really pretty cool. It really ties it all in. Again, if I was mixing white with the orange to make it a lighter orange, I would do this on camera number 1. We would do this together, but just to add water, not that exciting. So you might remember at the beginning of the week or at the end of last week when I was, I'll just turn this around for a second, when I was doing the shadowing to my purple, I mentioned like once you put all the details on top of the background, you'll barely notice that I added that shadowing, and that's, I noticed that earlier. I was looking at the white dots, looking at the plants, then I was looking at my electromagnetic rings. And it's true, the shadowing of the purple just kind of disappears and it's there on a subconscious level. And that's what's going to happen to these bubbles. Once I finish adding all the rest to this on the foreground, well, they will disappear little by little as well. And they will just be on your subconscious mind kind of thing. At least that's what I say to myself. I might be totally wrong, but who cares? So while I'm blabbing away again, I got my orange paint to be kind of nice and thick. And I'm almost tempted to keep this brush and use this brush to put down that first coat. So, well, I guess I have to try it to see if it's going to work. So let me see, camera number 1. Let me bring you over here. I'm going to start on that upper left-hand corner like I always do. That looks pretty good. Let me bring this guy over. There we go. So we're going to start on that upper left-hand corner. And I'm just going to work my way down this way since I'm right-handed. And again, just to avoid putting my hands in the wet paint. So let's switch over to camera number 1. And then let's go to this. And see if this brush is going to do the trick. So for that size of a bubble, yes. How about the smaller ones? Let's see. Okay. And, oops, shit. You see, I already put my hand in the green paint that I just put on a few seconds ago. Okay. So I'll do this one here. This brush is a little too big, but I'm going to stick with it and just be extra careful. There we go. I was going to say maybe by using this larger brush, I won't see my brush strokes. By having this paint nice and thick, maybe I won't even need that second coat, but I've said that so many times, and every time realize I had to put that second coat no matter what. So, is everything, are these cameras following me? Yes, okay. All right. So, just to have materials for my movie, I'm going to do a major zoom on this guy here. That when I do the editing, that will be a nice shot. So, and I'm just going to swivel this camera over a little bit like that. Okay, very good. All right. Okay, gotta move this camera back here. Zoom out a little bit. There we go. Should get a thermometer to put in the studio because it is hot. I'm sweating, and yet I have the fan on behind me. There we go. All right. So I might as well just stay on this area. Let's lower this camera down a little bit. Okay. Let's move on down to the other side. Very good. Now, I'm just going to move everything over a little bit, all these cameras. I am going to want to do a major zoom on this big fat one that I have here. I'm going to move all this out of the way. And I'm going to bring this stool over here and sit down. There we go. Why am I in the way? I don't want to be in the way of the lens. I hate that. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to zoom in on this fat guy here. Because on the other zoom I did, I realized, let me turn this whole camera over. I realized like I had the glare from my light above head, so this one shouldn't have any glare. There we go. Show these folks the steady hands that I have. Okay, let's get these last guys here. Okay, très bien. Let's do this one here then before we move our stool over. Very good. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Let's bring this camera over this way. Bring my other camera a little bit closer as well, even though I can zoom in easily with this one, so no need to, but I guess force of habit. All right. There we go. I often say to make sure painting is a pleasure, you have to get three things pretty much together: the right consistency of the paint, the right size paintbrush, and to be in a comfortable position. If you can reunite all three of those things, painting should be a real pleasure. And I know because I have been lazy often and not changed paintbrushes if it didn't work or didn't get in a comfortable position. Half the time everything screws up. So I have learned not to be as lazy, even if there's one or two planets left to paint. Make sure you do them right. No room for sloppiness. even though this is just the background color and the first coat. So when I screw up, I have plenty of room to catch up when I put the second coat and when I add the shadow, the final shadowing at the end. So let's just get these last two together. I'll just move this camera over just a whisker like that. There we go. Very good. And this last baby down here, which I'm not in a very comfortable position to do. And I'm going to do the edge just like that and wipe off the excess with my thumb to make it look just right. Okay, so did I skip anyone? Let me step back. So I have my keyboard here with all the shortcuts, which permits me to bounce from camera number 1 to camera number 2 to camera number 3 behind me, or have them together. Very handy, and you can tell like I got quite a bit of paint on it, but I really just use this section right here. I wish I could just cut this off. I know I can buy some keypads just limited of this, but screw it. I had this old keyboard, I might as well use it to run it into the ground before I spend any more money on it. On this stuff. So let's see where we're at here. I'm going to just step back and take a look at the painting. That might help once in a while to figure out what I'm going to be doing. Can't hurt, at least. And even though it's Friday and I'm tempted to take off, I am going to do one more thing. I'm just going to add a little more details to my vines and my trees. Very quickly do that. So what do I need? I need my burnt umber right here. Everything going okay with the broadcasting? Yes. So let's get a little bit of burnt umber. And I'm going to start with the dark, and then I'll do the light afterwards. So what do I need? I need a paintbrush, and I need a stiff brush. What I'm going to do first is just get the paint to be the right consistency. So I might as well just use any kind of a brush. So I'm going to just use this one. Again, I'm not mixing any colors. No point of doing this on camera number 1 over there, doing it together. So I'm just going to very quickly work this to get it to be nice and smooth, nice and creamy, so that it flows the way I should do. This is going to be so discreet. I'm going to put just a little bit of this on there. Friday. So I don't know. I have nothing planned. Went out last night to an opening, art opening, which was kind of cool, kind of fun. Went to an art opening of a guy called Le Battleur, who was one of the first street artists in the 1980s in Paris, 1990s. Was a close friend of mine. And he had a little one-man show here in Nice, France, where I'm living. And that was kind of nice. So this looks pretty good. I'm not going to need all that much. And more importantly, I'm going to have to find the right paintbrush for what I want to do. So let me check this out. I'm looking at this color here of this, let me turn this camera over a little bit. I'm looking a little bit at this beige where I want to add the darker part here, and I see that this would be too much of a contrast. So I'm going to add a little bit of white paint to my burnt umber to make it just a little bit lighter. Not too much, but just a little bit. I think that would be a wise move on my part. So where's my faithful knife? Here you are, my friend. And I might as well scrape some of the paint that's on my cap here. Just put that on the side and we'll blend it in little by little. There we go. So again, keeping the tools clean, that's a priority. There we go. And I guess I'll just use the same paintbrush to do the mixing, and then I'll figure out what, so I'm just going to take just a little bit of the white and add it. If I recall, this white paint overwhelms the burnt umber very quickly, so I really don't need that much. So how does this look compared to what's on the canvas? Still a little dark, I think. So I'm going to just add another teensy weensy bit of white. Make this just a little bit lighter still. There we go. Yeah, that looks much better. So blend this all in so it's nice and homogeneous. So what does this do now? For our canvas, let me just add a little bit. Okay, I think this will do the trick. Like I said, it's going to be so little of it. Oops. Whoops. So, the paintbrush. I want something kind of stiff and not too fat. Ah, here we go. This looks like the right kind of brush that I need. Yes, no, yes, no. Okay, let's try this one. If not, we'll just switch, right? While that's soaking, I guess I can move my cameras, get these baby ready. So I'll put this one right over here. I'll bring this guy a little bit closer. I always say that when I realize afterwards I can just zoom in. So no need for the tripod to be that close. So I'm going to start off over here. There we go. That's okay. Let me move this over so I'm not in front of the lens. Hopefully I'll remember to move it over. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just add a little bit of shadow on our shadow. Again, I'm going to move this over because I keep thinking I'm going to be in front of the lens. All right. Just very discreetly put this all over the place. Now, if we were in the winter time, I wouldn't be able to do this because this paint wouldn't be dry. It's not even dry right in this area here. But thanks to the fan that's behind me, we can kind of cheat our way through. Okay, very good. Now we are going to move over to this right-hand side and tackle these other trees. Let me bring this baby over here. There we go. Ah, c'est Beretta, je n'avais pas vu. So I have a few messages here. S'il te plaît, ouvre les volets dehors, il fait beau. Oh, 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 non, il neige. Ah ben d'accord. Je sais pas où tu es. Il neige à Paris, c'est pas possible. Bien que j'ai vu des grêlons, ils étaient où? À Lyon hier, grosses comme des balles de baseball. Bon, enfin bref. Let's get back to work. So let's tackle this up here. Let's try. Don't take the time to look at the messages that come with the Instagram. Can't do everything. Can't worry about the cameras, the painting, and now messages. There we go. Again, a lot of stuff is going to go on top of all this. Which doesn't mean you can't do a good job. All right. Let us continue. Again, when all this is finished, what will you see? I'm not sure. Most of this I'm sure I'll never see, but what the hell, you never know. If between two leaves you have a little glimpse, they'll always look nicer. So that's pretty good. Why don't I zoom in here just to have a little bit, there we go. There's something to play with when I start editing my movie. Let's tackle this big guy here as well. Okay, let me move the zoom out a little bit. There we go. If they didn't have those goddamn copyright laws for music, I would play a bunch of great music, but unfortunately, if I do that, they'll shut me off, so. So, what does this look like? Let me step back for a second. All right, all we got to do is finish down here. I'll zoom out for that. All we have is this little patch in this lower right-hand corner to do. And I guess I don't need to use my bar stool for that. I can bend over for once. Again, not sure if any of this will be seen or not once the painting is finished. Probably not, but what the hell. So, what does that look like? Let's bring all these cameras back. I think if I go like this, I get back to the full width. I'm going to bring this over here. Camera number 1. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, so scene from camera number 2. Camera number 1. And I guess we're all set. So I guess we're finished for today. I want to thank you very much for joining me. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next Monday. I hope you'll join me. We'll be here at 3 p.m. if you're living in France, 9 a.m. if you're in the States, on the East Coast at least. So I want to wish you all a wonderful weekend. Ciao, mes amis. There we go. Got rid of the Instagram crowd. And I want to thank you for joining me as well. Like you just heard from them, I'm going to say the same thing to you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you'll join me Monday for the continuation of this painting. I'm going to leave you with 2 things like I always do. The first one is by leaving you with my schedule and by saying, ciao mes amis.